Many months ago, we set out on a quest to complete one of the most iconic Minecraft mod packs, All the Mods 9. Throughout this adventure, we witnessed a humble vanilla Minecraft player transform into a bee-loving modded enthusiast, who is just stubbornly determined enough to craft the All the Mods star and the starry bee. However, a new challenge is on the horizon, one that sheer determination alone simply won't be enough for. That challenge is GregTech, a culmination of enough technology, grind, and multi-blocks to challenge even the most skilled of players. Will we conquer the final chapter and emerge victorious by crafting the Greg star? Come along with us and find out. This is the GregTech Gauntlet. Hey everyone, my name is KryptoCal, and welcome to the next episode of All the Mods 9, GregTech Gauntlet. In the last episode, we finished by setting up our stand mixer and hooking in a couple of our bees into this, and this is now running beautifully. We have comb processing, we have smelting with our little blast smelter, our little mini smelter, and this is keeping up pretty well. One thing I did do though to manage the rates of these combs is we have now all of these apiaries that have bees running in them all have redstone control, similar to how we have all of our EBFs controlled. That way we don't stock up with like 2 million of one type, clogging up our ore processing, and that just becomes no fun. So this way we can manage our throughput much easier. But we get to now make use of all of these beautiful apiaries.
Woohoo! We're not even using that many of them yet. We're only using like 4.
The bee stuff kind of inspired me. I wasn't happy with how we were doing our freezing setup. It was a little messy. When we had new ingots coming in, we had to add the hot ingots to the list of interfaces, and we were kind of running out of space also in those interfaces. I didn't like that. Decided to change it up to actually make it a subnet version as well. And this is what I've come up with here. It's our new wall of freezers, and I think it looks so awesome when it's running all together. But essentially how this is working is very similar to our comb processing. Under here, I just have off of our main net, I have a small little subnet where it's dumping everything with a tag storage bus that is labeled as a hot ingot. All the hot ingots are coming into here, going into our ME drive. And then once it comes in here, all the stocking buses they will take all of the hot ingots out of our disks and send them into our freezers. The one thing that we did have an issue with was we had to have some freezers running with the liquid helium to cool. The way I remedied that was kind of just brute forcing it. I just have all of these stocked with liquid helium now. Even if they don't require liquid helium to run, they'll still run in the one that has liquid helium. So it doesn't matter if it's in there or not. And so everything can be run in here always. The sheep dancing in front of the freezers, the choreography.
Thank you.
There's something oddly, morbidly poetic about a sheep dancing in front of the freezer.
Something about frozen mutton.
Would this be considered tenderizing the meat?
I feel like you put a sheep in most situations and it's like vaguely ominous in some capacity.
Now we don't have to worry about adding hot ingots every single time we make a new EBF, and it'll just make our lives a lot easier. And in the time that we were kind of just doodling around doing stuff and doing all of that bee stuff, we have had the rhodium palladium building up in the background slowly but surely. And now we have a pretty good supply of it. 2.2 thousand ingot is pretty good. So this EBF here is making us the Ruridit ingot, and that is what we're going to be using to make this next big progression step here in LuV, which is going to be to get the assembly line up and running. A lot of the stuff after this point is going to require an assembly line to be made. For example, the LuV energy hatch, our gateway to the next tier of energy, is gated behind the assembly line process, so there's no more making these in a normal assembler, and the assembly line is a whole separate beast. This thing is quite a complex and very precise multi-block from what I've heard, and it is very expandable depending on what size of recipe you're going to be running. So there's a good chance we're going to want many of these. All of this is pretty doable for us at this point. It's not anything super complicated. The data access hatch does require these data sticks. It should just be a matter of just drag and dropping this in. Data sticks being stocked up, which is fantastic, so that we should have everything we need to start making this assembly line.
Have you set up any of the crafting recipes yet, or no?
Nope. The LuV energy hatch is obviously made inside the assembly line, but it says that it requires research. And that is a concept that I'm not familiar with yet, so let's read ahead and see what we can find. Insert 1 data stick and 1 IV energy hatch to make the necessary instructions set for the LuV energy hatch.
I'm confused. I'm very confused in all actuality.
Let's just take it one step at a time. First off,
take a big steppy.
we need a scanner. We need at least an EV scanner. I'm just going to put this down on the floor. I'm not even going to make a setup for it. I'm just going to put it on the floor.
On the floor? You're really just not making this permanent at all.
But look at this freezer setup back here. Dang. Well, I have an IV energy hatch, and I have a Data stick. Oh, it's doing something super
It is.
slowly,
It's
but
scanning.
it is doing something. It kind of looks like it's kind of like an AE2 pattern.
Oh yeah, okay, gotcha. Vibes.
I guess that kind of makes sense. Let's get all the other resources. Let's get over to LuV and let's start making this thing happen. All right, so assembly line time. It looks like this has to be on the corner. I'm going to build it very similarly to how it says in the diagram here. I'm not sure exactly how flexible this multi-block is. So it appears that the energy hatch has to go on the upper row. The assembly line has to be on one of the sides, the corners, and it has to be, it looks like, on the side opposite to where the output is. The output has to be, I think, on the opposite side to this. So this is where we're going to have our ME output bus, and then our input buses are just going to go on all the other ones. Oh, did it form? First try? It did. We do have to add some input hatches as well, because some of the recipes do require fluids back here or something. There we go. Nice. Okay. Well, I think that's it. I think I did it right. I'm just gonna go ahead and probably use a little bit of like laser IO or something. I just want to test this system and see how it works. So after that clip, I spent the next couple hours troubleshooting and working on this, and I was having such a hard time. I was bashing my head against the wall. So I decided to join the GregTech Discord to see if I could get some help. And thanks to a bunch of the devs over there, we were able to figure the problem out. It took us quite a while to actually diagnose the problem, and the actual problem ended up being that one of the input buses was set to a blank circuit, not the null circuit setting. So it didn't actually have a circuit number, but it had a blank setting on it. And that was enough to cause it to not be able to run. So do keep that in mind, that if you are building this thing, you have to make sure that there are no settings selected for any of the input buses. And I decided to tear the whole thing down here and rebuild it because I wasn't really happy with the way I was doing it with laser IO. And there are lots of videos online about how to automate the assembly line, and they're actually really good. The one that I saw was from a YouTuber called Nine. He's a really awesome GregTech YouTuber. He does a lot of GTNH stuff. So if you're interested, go check him out. But I will go ahead and link the video of the setup that I'm using that I saw, and you can go check it out if you want to do it yourself. So to start off, the big difference that we're going to be doing in terms of the setup is going to be using another subnet to do the crafting. One thing to keep in mind that I wasn't aware of before I did a bunch of troubleshooting is this multi-block is very finicky. The order in which the items get placed actually does matter. You have to place the items in here from the controller side all the way down to the other side. It has to be in the order that it shows up in JEI. And what I mean by that is if we come in here and look at the recipe for the LuV motor, the way it wants you to put this recipe in is going to be from left to right and from top to bottom. So this long magnetic samarium rod will be the first one, then the HSS rod, and so on and so on. And then the last item here will be the niobium cable. So we do have to make sure that everything is going in the correct orientation. And as long as we're setting the recipe so that it is in this order, it should try and put it in this order by default. And what we're going to end up using is going to be some storage buses to control the priorities and which items get inserted where. So I'll go ahead, build up the structure of this thing, and then we can add in all the AE2 stuff. So in this case, you can take a look here at this craft. The order that this is kind of showing up in AE2 here to make the LuV motor, this is the exact order that we need it in. And I think by default, it will try and do it in this right order, but just make sure when you are crafting this up, just double check to make sure the recipe is in order. Let's put all of our storage buses onto the input buses underneath here. And what we're going to do is come to the end, make sure that this one is on priority 0. And then every bus after that going down the row here, we're going to change the priority to be 1 less. So it'll always try and place items starting over here and working our way down the line. The last one, we actually don't want to be a storage bus. This is going to be an interface going back into our mainnet. And then we're also going to want to put 2 storage buses onto our input hatches as well. These priorities don't really matter as much because these can only hold one type of fluid. And the order doesn't actually matter in this case. There are some packs, I think, where the fluid ordering does matter as well, but in ATM9, it is disabled. We have to make sure that we have access to enough channels for this to actually run, and because this is going to be running on a subnet, we are going to have to use a controller to get access to more than just 8 channels. And to make it so that things don't accidentally connect when we don't want them to, And to just keep channel management really easy, what we can do is just alternate cabling like this all the way down. Next up, we're going to put a pattern provider down here with our normal interface setup. Then here we'll just have just a cable for our subnet, and then we'll just take a Fluix cable and run this all along the bottom here, just so it hooks all of this into the right network. Let's give it some power just like this, but we also do have to run a main net connection down here. This whole thing is pretty much ready to go. All we have to do is come over to our pattern provider, give this thing the recipe for the motor, and the last setting that is probably the most important part to allow this thing to not get clogged up is going to be to change one setting on our storage buses. And this is one that I didn't actually know I had to do. I had to do a little bit of research on this, but there is an option that says report inaccessible items. By default, this is on no. If you turn that to yes, basically any port here that can't have items extracted out of, like the input buses, it'll still tell our AE system, basically that it'll tell the pattern provider that, hey, there's an item in here, and so then blocking mode works properly. We have to make sure that we have blocking mode on to not push the crafting ingredients if there is an inventory that contains a pattern input already. The only thing that I haven't done yet is, well, give this a test ride, so we're gonna have to see if this actually works first try. I'm gonna ask for 10, which could be a little crazy, but we gotta kind of stress test this thing. So let's hit 10, let's hit start, and hopefully, once it crafts up some of the previous ingredients, it will just work. Fingers crossed. Oh, it's working.
Wait, it's actually...
It's going. And it's not overloading the input buses, right?
We're the best.
Okay, no, it has one recipe queued in each, which is perfect.
We're simply the best that ever lived.
Nice. That is a fully functional assembly line.
I made it.
What'd you make? Hey, the LuV mixer. You work on getting that automated, and I'll get the other LuV parts into this thing.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so we have the data stick here now for the LuV emitter. We'll get the sensor one running as well. But now we should be able to actually request that. We have to just make sure we have the recipe put in here as well. And this should be the recipe for the LuV emitter. Okay, and with that, I have a couple more resources here automated and taken care of, like some palladium and some of the rudite stuff. And now I have all of the autocrafts put into our assembly line for 3 different LuV components: the motor, the emitter, and the sensor. So if I'm going to test this out, I guess I should probably just try and do it right now. Let's go ahead and get 10 of these sensors. We're going to get 10 of the emitters. We're just going to just get all these requested up, and 10 of the motors. I want to just kind of spam this thing, and hopefully it doesn't break. So now we're left with just the ludicrous voltage coil that is left for the hatch. And to make that thing, that is, I think, where we need to get the LuV assembler. This does require some of the LuV robot arms and conveyor modules. Oh, how many? This is a 9-item one. Oh no, it's gonna only hold 8 items.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
It's like one too short.
How about we make the platform longer?
No, we'll just make a new one over here. BRB, I'm gonna go make another one of these assembly lines.
Another one.
One eternity later.
The massive one is now set up and ready to go. All the logic is run very similar to how I did the other one. Let's see, can I now request an LuV conveyor? I'm missing HSS plates and HSS screws. I can do it. I can make the LuV assembler. Wow, what a process that was. Well, I'm gonna put this in our little wing over here. General assembler LuV. Ludicrous coil recipe out here, which means that we can then make our LuV energy hatch, and then we can basically just spam these everywhere because we have the flux points and they're broken and OP, and I got made fun of for using them.
We were new at GregTech when we started this, and we're not about to not take advantage of that.
Exactly.
All the Mods 9 was my first ever experience playing modded Minecraft. The fact that I'm playing any Greg at all is kind of impressive in my books. So don't make fun of me for flux points. I still don't know how half of this stuff works.
But with all that being said, I think that's a great place to call it for this episode. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I really hope you did enjoy. If you did enjoy, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to join the Discord. The link is in the description down below. That's it for me, everybody. I hope you have a good one, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.